here at the Write Up, February 2nd, 2026. And we've got a great one today. We're going to be talking about openings.
Yes, because this week is Children's Authors and Illustrators Week. So every day this week, we're going to be looking at kind of a different aspect of, books and different pieces of them. And we thought, well, let's open the week with openings that grab readers.
Yeah, I love it because, openings are the first thing that we read in books, no matter what type of book it is. If it's a children's book, if it's a novel, it doesn't really matter. Openings are always first. And so we wanted to pose the question, is there a secret to writing a really great opening? Because this is actually where a lot of people get stuck when they start to write. They think, how do I start? Where do I begin? What do I put first? And that's actually why we like to do openings at the very end in Writing with Design. Because it lets you build your opening off of everything else that you've written. But ironically, it is the first thing that your readers read. So back to the question, is there a secret? No matter if you write it first or you write it at the end, is there a secret to writing a really great opening?
Well, I'll tell you one secret about openings, Amber, and I told her this earlier today, but I write books, and I will tell you that my opening is always the most revised, most rewritten thing. And it makes sense to write it last, like we do in Writing with Design, because it changes so much with all of the things that come after that you kind of have to constantly tweak it to match that. So I really should just write it last when I'm writing my own book.
There you go. There you go. So we wanted to showcase, these are the 8 strategies that over the course of Writing with Design students learn. And they were derived from lots of different sources. And that's what we're going to move into next, is actually kind of seeing what types of openings are used in published books. But we wanted to just first lay them out so that everyone kind of sees what the 8 are. We can tell who did what, when, where, and why. That can be just a very simple character action, or it can be a much more elaborate kind of setting the scene of where the story begins. We love describing the setting. That's a really fantastic one, especially for our younger writers. And actually, these are kind of in order of developmental difficulty to do them well. So that first strategy is really just to be able to say, okay, tell where your story is starting and move on. Then second one, describe the setting. Where is the story taking place? Monologue. Oh, I love monologue. It's one of my favorite opening strategies because it's just one character talking. It can be one simple word. It could be a quick little line. It doesn't have to be what we consider like a monologue speech. It's just a quick line of speech, but only by one character. There's not an exchange back and forth. Then we've got describe what the character is thinking or doing. Describe what the character looks like. So more about
in a mirror.
What's that?
Just not in a mirror.
Not in a mirror. Yeah, no, definitely. It's got to be done with intrigue, with great description, with maybe even some suspense, right? Then we do have dialogue, right? And we did caveat that with a short exchange. We don't want to get just straight into back and forth between characters for a lot of our stories, especially in our K-12 setting. But dialogue can be powerful to help start a story. Sound effects can be great. And then lastly, for students who are ready to try this fairly difficult one, beginning at the end of the story. So here are the 8. We pull these in across all grade levels. But again, the earlier the grade level or the newer to the strategy, the more to the left in terms of the strategies we begin, or that we kind of limit the choices. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take a look at some different openings of books, and you and I are going to get to decide what strategy or strategies they used.
Yes.
Okay. First, Elmer by David McKee. There was once a herd of elephants. Elephants young, elephants old, elephants tall and short, fat and thin. All were different, but all were happy. And almost all were the same color.
So that's a really good character description that's not in a mirror.
Yeah.
And really kind of, setting up what you're going to be reading about.
Well, yeah, because it also says almost all were the same color. Like, well, what's happening? What's different? And you can tell by the cover of this book that we've got a very colorful elephant, Elmer. And there's just such a wonderful message in this book about owning your colors. But yeah, I mean, this opening definitely makes you want to know, well, what about the rest? So it is that character description, but it's done in a way that there's intrigue. And that's the secret. All right, let's go to the next one. Going someplace special. Patricia McKissick, one of my favorites. Trisha Ann was about to burst with excitement. Crossing her fingers and closing her eyes, she blurted out her question. Mama Frances, may I go to someplace special by myself today? Pretty please. I know where to get off the bus and which streets to take and all. Oh, this is such a great story. And the opening is definitely character description, right? Crossing your fingers and closing your eyes. You can just feel that excitement. And then we've got the start of what becomes a little bit of dialogue, but just that one opening paragraph is monologue.
Yes. All right, this is The Swifts, A Dictionary of Scoundrels by Beth Lincoln. And if you haven't had your middle graders read this, it was pitched as Knives Out for middle schoolers. So if you have any middle schoolers that love a good murder mystery, this is the book for them. But the opening says it was a bright, well-dressed morning in early May, and the Swifts were in the middle of a funeral. So this definitely kind of gives the who, what, where, and leaves you with a note of suspense because you're like, well, why are they in a funeral? What's happening at this funeral?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot packed into that one sentence. That's
Yes.
really well done.
Oh, this was a really fun one. I was looking through some classics today, and this was definitely not the one I thought I was going to pick. But then when we were reading them out loud, we were just like, yes, we have to go with this one. So Alice in Wonderland starts with, and this is by Lewis Carroll, this is a classic, says Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversations in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations?
Oh,
Kind of it's an interesting way to start a book. It's very meta, with the because that book Alice in Wonderland doesn't really have pictures, but
right.
uh kind of starts we got kind of a monologue combo with thoughts and a good setting here. There's a lot of
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little bit of character action, a little bit of character thought. I love that combo. And that's what I think is so great. Is like we've distilled down to those 8 strategies and then students can pick and choose even in the same sentence more than one strategy. So there's such power in showing choice and trying out different openings to just really see what's going to land with the best way of starting the story. Okay. Oh gosh, one of my all-time favorites, The Ransom of Red Chief. And I'm so excited that we found this. This is the original publication of it from 1907. Look at that, the summer of 1907. And it reads, oh, sorry, I got my thing over the screen. Can you read it actually?
Yeah, it looked like a good thing, but wait till I tell you. We were down south in Alabama, Bill Driscoll and myself, when this kidnapping idea struck us. It was, as Bill afterward expressed it, during a moment of temporary mental apparition. But we didn't find that out till later.
I love it. So this one is beginning with the end,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely that reflective moment where they really wish they had made a different choice. And then it hooks you in and it makes you want to keep reading and think,
It
what
also
was that terrible decision they made?
Yes, it also is setting and, like, the minute I read Alabama and kidnapping, I kinda went into a little bit of a Southern drawl there because it just,
That was great.
kinda pulls you right in because 'cause you're just like, "Ooh, what's happening here? And what is a temporary mental apparition?" You know?
Right? We've all had those. Yeah. So hopefully it didn't involve kidnapping, but it definitely brings you in. All right. So, yeah, we really want students to learn that openings are like an umbrella. They should cover all the sentences of the writing. They kind of shade the piece of writing where they let you know a little bit about what's going on underneath it, but they don't give everything away. And so we don't want students to completely tell their story in their opening. And as you saw in the examples we just walked through, it doesn't matter if it's a recent children's book, if it's a short story that's a classic from the early 1900s. that the opening strategies that we teach in writing with design are universally applicable for students, and they serve as that umbrella for writing fantastic stories.
Yes.
You want to take this one?
Openings are also like a pizza baking in the oven. So remember, no soggy dough. And that is something that we talk about with our teachers and students when we talk about openings. We have this beautiful graphic of what it means to have a soggy dough opening, which is like I talked about earlier, opening with a mere explanation, right? Or do you want to learn more about tigers? Or in my opinion, nerds are the best candy in the whole world.
Yes.
Or the one that drives me crazy. Today I'm going to be writing about blah 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 blah.
Right? Yeah. No, these soggy dough openings, these are off limits for students. And yeah, they're just like that dough on your hands where it's too wet and it's just it won't get
Yes.
off. And so we don't want students to use any of these for their stories or across any of their writing. So this is one of our favorite resources to share with teachers. And yeah, I just want to come back to this idea of openings are like a pizza baking in the oven. And that kind of pulls off or pulls together with the soggy dough idea. And also with our closings, we talk about burnt crust closings, which are all those very contrived, formulaic closings that we don't want to see in student writing. But the idea that like when pizza is cooking in the oven, like it's pizza. You don't think it's a turkey, you don't think it's a casserole, like it's pizza and it's a divine smell. And
Right.
that's what we want for students with their openings. We want readers to know what they're about to enter into, that it's going to be a story, that it gives a little glimpse of the setting or the characters, or whether that's through monologue or a description, right? It gives them a little taste of it without being the whole meal, and certainly though giving them a sense of where they're going. So that whole idea of it's the pizza cooking in the oven is really to say don't give it away, but definitely give enough to let your reader know where you're going with the story. And definitely no soggy dough. That does not create a good pizza.
No. Okay, so we were talking today about how openings are. A lot of teachers will say, you put your hook in the opening. That's how you hook your readers, right? And there is a certain degree of that, but we were kind of running through some different analogies in our heads, and we thought, an opening does not shout at you, but it makes you lean in because you want to know what's happening. So there is a little bit of a hook in there, but it's not the hook. And when you tell your students to rely on that, like the hook needs to be in the opening, that is very overwhelming to
Yeah.
students because how do you write an entire essay and have one sentence in there that's going to make them want to read that whole thing? But it shouldn't. It makes you lean in, right? You want to know more about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You're right. We have to take the pressure off the opening. Those strategies will help with that. And then also circling back to the opening as one of the last things that students write, especially for their stories, will be such a powerful way to make sure that the opening has the right amount of pressure and expectation on it, but not something that's so overwhelming, and definitely not something that's going to keep students from moving forward with their story.
Yes, and when you write it last, you will not have to revise it 700 times like yours truly over here.
Take it from Tabitha. All right. Well, happy writing, everyone. We can't wait to see what you do with opening strategies.
Bye.